Hey there, cats and kitties. I am the Blues Man, Johnny Blues, and with this video, I'll be discussing my thoughts on episode 5 of the anime series Erased. And oh my god, man. Like, the tension that was unbridled all through the last episode was pretty much all stricken through this entire episode as well, from beginning to end. And I mean, blood-curdlingly so. Watching in abject horror as Kaio has effectively not shown up to school. Tsutoru has to confront it's all happened again. It's happened a little differently. He was able to manipulate time. He was able to change things just barely, but it still played out to the same effect, with the exception of the fact, pointing toward one of my speculation points, was that, how did we know Kaio's mother and her boyfriend didn't beat her to death and then, bring her body to the park because that was somewhere she was always known to be? And it just happened to coincide with kids going missing, or they later orchestrated kidnapping and abducting of kids, so it would look like some kind of grand serial abduction thing, which is what it played out to be. And I'm just like, I'm in almost like a murderous rage myself, as Tsutoru is walking home and sees that psycho bitch mother throwing out her belongings, Kaio's belongings, and amongst them are the mittens he gifted her for her birthday. And this having followed that brief little glimpse of her seemingly lifeless body stricken all from head to toe with black and blue marks, it just, the tension and the being almost to the point of having to be sick, like, was unparalleled. And then Tsutoru's becoming aware of his mother talking to a former co-worker who works in the TV news department and everything, and they're giving the story a spin that, Kaio had gone to live with her grandparents so as not to spook the children and all that kind of stuff. And then subsequent abductions are happening anyway. And for his part, Mr. Standout in the classroom, Kenya, he seems to already know what's going on. He has his suspicions. He comes out and says it's like they're angling this as a, serial abduction case. So I'm much more suspicious of Kenya, that much more, in the vein of, like, is he malevolent? Is he with the malevolent machinations that are going on? Does he also have this ability? Is he witnessing this time and again and trying to affect change? Is he kind of like, an extended partner, if you will, to what Tsutoru's whole cause is? And to make matters worse, in his rage, in reaction, he snaps back to present day 2006. Probably moments, just a few moments from when he dodged the police with his mother's blood still on his hands. And it's insane. I was like, no! Like, I understand he can flip back and forth in time. I get all of that. It's just like, there's a level of, well, he can't really control it, so he's in danger in the present. And we see how this danger works itself out, where he goes to his manager, and the manager kind of sells him out because he's doing the decent thing. He's doing what he feels is right. He doesn't know whether he can believe Tsutoru is guilty or innocent. He doesn't want to think of him as being guilty. A person capable of not only taking a life, but committing matricide, killing his own mother. But he's an honorable, law-abiding person even if we're feeling for Satoru and we're like, that guy's a creep for calling the cops on him. Well, no, not really. For all he knew, Satoru could have just, jacked him in his sleep, that kind of thing. So he did the right thing. It's not working out for our, protagonist. And so I'm glad he was on the run. And I was really shocked and surprised that Airi is there to, find him. And because of her own belief, it's not a matter, as she says, I love her in this episode because it's not a matter of giving Satoru the opportunity to say, please believe me, I didn't do this. She already believes in his innocence. She can't conceive of him being responsible for this. I'm sure she doesn't have even, any sense of what could be going on. Maybe a little bit, because she has that book that he left behind. And this is where we see he has affected change in the past. He was able to change the time and place of when those original events happened, but they still happened. And to know now that, or at least, again, it's my estimation that Kaio's mother and her boyfriend were the ones really responsible, it's just that much more despicable and horrendous and emotionally frustrating. I want to wring their necks. I want to beat them within an inch of their lives. And so, to make matters worse, Airi goes into work. She wants to go about her normal procedure of the day, her daily routine. And when she's signing off, we have the boss talking to what I gathered via the dialogue was a politician of sorts, and they are deliberately not showing this guy's face. They do also hone in on a little floral-esque pin. I don't know if this is to be a callback to something we've seen before, to confirm whether or not maybe this was the guy, who was walking out of Satoru's apartment when he first got home. I'd have to go back and look at the previous episodes. Or if it was to imply, something else entirely, if anything at all. But they're deliberately not showing this guy. And it seems like he has honed in, not only in the conversation where it gets a little bit weird, where he's like, oh, she's cute to Mr. Manager, and the manager's like, oh, well, she's only 17, but yeah, kind of, and it's just awkward. And so this guy goes to leave, and he's longingly watching after Airi, and I'm like, oh my god, what the hell? And at that point, when Manager pulls up, it's almost a sigh of relief, but at the same time, I'm also kind of suspecting the manager at this point. Oh, you forgot this other, food for the promotion. Probably got some Cinesticks or something. I don't know. But that whole thing about, he tells her, help Satoru any way you can. I am almost of the suspicion at that point that when the manager, when she says, oh, the pizza's for a friend, I think he was suspicious of that, from right out of the gate. As soon as he hears that, oh, what friend does she have? She's kind of a weird girl. Who's she hanging out with? Maybe it's one of her gal pals, and that was to cover up for the conversation, but I think he suspected it because, of course, he went back to her place or was, prowling around outside, somehow got there ahead of her. I guess she was walking the whole way home, and he was on that little moped or whatever, delivery moped. And again, I had a renewed sense of, man, I love this chick with Airi, because she cold cocks him, bloodies that nose, breaks his phone, and don't you dare. She gets right up in his face. Don't you dare. If you care one iota about me, do not bring the cops into this. And I guess Satoru must have figured that out, or she went inside and told him, and they, they're back under the bridge where he found himself the night before. And it's just, she wants to help him, and I love how gung-ho she is in wanting to. And again, it's one of those things where I'm wondering if there is going to be some kind of relatability, not necessarily that they're related, she and Satoru, but maybe she's related to someone who is involved in some way, shape, or form. I mean, maybe she's Kenya's daughter or something like that. I don't know exactly if the ages would match up. But I feel like she has more awareness than we as yet know. And this is kind of put at risk, which somebody, I gotta give props, somebody in the comments on my last episode said they were suspecting Airi was next on the hit list for when, whenever Satoru found himself back in the future, the present, 2006. And that came to pass because, as we see, she's going to get him a change of clothes, get him towels, get him, probably cleaning, like hygiene products and all that kind of stuff, so he can try to make his way, because he's effectively homeless. Where can he go? He can't go anywhere. And, finding out a little bit more about Airi's history as well, amongst all of that. But of course, the phone rings, and it's coming from Satoru's mother's phone. And he had already sort of, let us in on the whole idea that, well, her phone, her purse, her belongings had not been in the apartment that he was aware. So whoever this killer is, whoever this abductor is, whatever's going on with all of that, must have it. And then all of a sudden her apartment is like, or her house, her uncle's house, or whatever it is like backdraft. And the smoke is instantly knocking her out. There are explosions coming out the windows, and cliffhanger. Again! It's just like, oh my God. This show, this freaking show, neck and neck. It's neck and neck between Erased and Showa Genroku Rakugo Shinju as being top contenders for my favorite series of this particular season. Both shows utmost quality, depth, characterization. But I mean, Erased is really pressing my buttons. It's really manipulating my emotions. I was horrified and stricken at the idea that poor Kayo was beaten to death. And subsequently her body, I guess her remains, were hidden or something by that psycho, I don't even want to say, I want to use some polite language for my viewers, but I mean, that psycho C, if you know what I mean, and her boyfriend, and like other children going missing. It's like, it is, were they, as I said, orchestrating something to cover up what they did? Like, kidnap other kids? I think they'd be capable of it, given what they did to her child. But to orchestrate it so it looks like it's an unrelated thing, or it's part of something else and they're innocent, guaranteeing their innocence. Is it some other abductor type person that's actually kidnapping these kids and like taking advantage of, oh, well, one kid went missing, and, how that would work to their advantage, I'm not sure. But, I mean, when you're dealing with a psychosis anyway, you're not really going to make sense of it. It's going to be really strange and frustrating if it all boils down to somehow this was like an ongoing thing relating back to Kayo's mother's boyfriend all along, or something so uber simplified and sort of fitted into a nutshell. Like, I have to assume there's something grander going on, and that somebody, like whether it be the teacher or Kenya, as I've speculated in the past, or somebody we've as yet even been introduced to, or like somebody else has to be involved somewhere along the line, right? I mean, could it easily just boil back down to Kayo's mother and her boyfriend? I don't know. And to see that whoever this is, like, why would they go after Airi? Because she was trying to help Satoru? I can't imagine any other reasoning there. If they somehow suspect he has awareness as to whomever they are, and they want to, like, just cover the tracks entirely, get anyone out of the way that they even remotely suspect might have some information on who they are, who has been responsible all along. It's the only thing I can figure. I mean, I'm grasping at straws. I just, like, this was a roller coaster ride, and it was insane. It was just insane. And so, I'd love to hear from you guys in the comments below. Do you feel like you were grabbed by the shoulders and shook within an inch of your own life, like I was with this episode? Mind effed and emotionally effed and everything. Because, yeah, it was like an earthquake of the emotions with this sucker. And so, anything goes in the comments below. Love it or hate it. You know, our POVs can certainly disagree. Just love having that conversation. And I'd love to hear from you and what your thoughts on it are and what you speculate might be unfolding here, who you might think is responsible and all that kind of good stuff. And so, yeah, it's another week-long wait to have to just see what the hell happens next. And otherwise, it'll be pretty much it for me on this. Hope this video finds you well. And I'll catch you all later. Peace.